Hey everyone! Welcome to today's video. I wanted to go ahead and share some weekly spread ideas for those of you who are looking for some different ideas on how to create your weekly spreads for your bullet journals. I hope that you find this video helpful, and let's go ahead and jump right in. So throughout this video, I will be featuring bullet journals that I've created over the years. So the very first bullet journal of mine was in 2018. So I went ahead and just labeled different weekly spreads that I would like to share with you all today. Some of them are similar to one another, just different layouts and different orientations. So just to give you some ideas on how to maybe switch things up in your weekly spreads if you'd like. So this first spread here was one of my favorite ones when I first started bullet journaling, and you will notice that over the years I've recreated this layout a lot of different times. So it's basically just the monthly calendar over here on the side, and then pretty much the same width and height for the daily boxes here, and then just with some doodles on the sides. And then just a little area for next week or for little notes. This next one was also another one that I really enjoyed creating, and I have several different variations of this one as well. Back then I used to not keep track of a lot of the things that I did during the day. This was more for journaling, and so that's why there's a lot of writing on these. But again, just the days of the week and then a box for next week, and I really enjoyed doodling in mine and adding little artwork. So there is that one. This next one here is a little similar to the previous one, just with the squares. I really liked layouts that pretty much maximized the space on each spread. And I also forgot to mention, but in the past then I would use A5 sized journals. So this one in particular, my very first bullet journal, was a Leuchtturm 1917 dotted journal in the A5 size. And I really liked layouts like this, where I would just have like the day of the week on top, and then I would write in a lighter shade the actual day of the week for the background. So that was something that I really enjoyed doing back then. And this next one is very similar to that first layout that I showed you, just with the monthly calendar and then the daily boxes in the center, and then kind of just some random things on the sides here. So a little doodle on this side, and then a task box and a box for next week. And then just kind of like random notes down here. Then this next one, again, very similar to one that I've already shown you. I really enjoyed having the squares and then the numbers behind the writing. And then just another variation of that first spread. Again, having the daily boxes in the center, and then having some artwork, even some scrapbook paper just taped in for some extra texture and variation in decorations. This next one is, I believe, the first time that I did a layout like this, where I would just focus the daily boxes kind of in the center here, and then added the artwork on top and on the bottom. So again, just another version of the squared daily boxes with the numbers in the background. This one's different as well, just with the larger headings for the days of the week and a little bit more abstract with the journal entries and the tasks. I kind of just improvised on where I was going to write everything rather than having that very structured outlined square or rectangle. And then also just another variation, this one was one that I also really liked, just having the days of the week out on the sides, and then having kind of like the journal entries on the insides. And then this section down here were my tasks that I wanted to write out for the week, and then items for the following week. And the last one that I wanted to show you in this first bullet journal of mine is just another variation of that very first spread, and this time I wanted to integrate that lighter pen with the numbers, the days of the month behind it. So I wanted to kind of incorporate two of my favorite spreads together. I also really loved decorating and drawing and doodling in my weekly spreads back then. So those are the weekly spreads for my first bullet journal. So back then, I used to use 2 A5 Leuchtturm dotted journals each year. I would have one span from January to June, and then July through December, and I would make sure that each year I would get 2 of the same color, just to color coordinate each year. So moving on to my second bullet journal, July through December of 2018. I just have a couple of spreads in here as well that I wanted to share. This first one was also one of my favorites. I really liked the contrast of having like the black, kind of like a chalkboard effect, with the vivid purple scalloped theme, if that's what you call it. Just a little more doodly and artistic, incorporating some scrapbook paper just to add some texture and visual interest. And then just another layout here, again with the defined outlined boxes and the numbers filling up the background of the box. And then just something a little bit different, a little bit more scribbly and a little more abstract, with some doodles of leaves down here, and then having lines here to outline my tasks, and then just a couple of little scrapbook elements there as well. And then the last weekly spread that I would like to share from this journal, again just with the black outline for the headings, and then with kind of that chalkboard effect with the white gel pen on top. And then very scrapbooky again, or collage-esque, with the scrapbook paper just layered on top with some stickers and washi tape. So those are the spreads from my second bullet journal. Now for 2019, the January through June one, again on the Leuchtturm 1917 A5 dotted journal. This one, as you can see, ended up getting pretty thick, but I do have just a couple of spreads I'd like to share from this one as well. This first one, again, just with kind of some different layouts of where my boxes are, along with the scrapbook paper, just to kind of add some more decoration to the weekly spread. And then I feel like this one would be very nice for those of you who prefer more of a minimalistic theme. I made this one during a very busy time in my life, just with suddenly having to move. So I didn't want to fuss around with too many colors or too difficult of a theme. So I just went with this basic monochromatic theme. The way that I just tried to make it look a little bit more interesting was I just used some letter stamps to stamp the days of the week. And so that kind of helps to give some variation to the spread without having to use a bunch of supplies and spend a lot of time on it. And the last theme in here is, again, just kind of focusing the daily boxes in the center of the spread, and then kind of just incorporating some paper flowers on the edge, and then some washi tape, and some scrapbook paper, and then as well as a quote. So there are the weekly spreads in that one. Alright, now for the second half of 2019, I have several to show you guys from this one. So as you can see, I was playing a lot with watercolors during this time, and I believe possibly even Tombow dual brush pens, since they are water-based or water-soluble. So I thought this one turned out very nice, just kind of having the daily journal entries flow this way and then having that variation with the artwork on this half. And this one was one that I really liked as well. It was just kind of on a whim when I created this one. I had a few magazines and saw this beautiful picture in the magazine and just figured I would maybe like cut it in half or something. Instead of drawing out my own doodles on the sides, then I would just paste this in and it'll give it a little bit more visual interest, if you will. Now this one actually ended up being one of my absolute favorite weekly spreads that I've ever created. It just really sticks out in my mind whenever I think back to how I used to do my weekly spreads. I remember just having a very difficult time during this period in my life, and all I wanted to do was just doodle this portrait and a bunch of these flowers. Yeah, I really like this one, even though these boxes are a little small for how I prefer to bullet journal now. Just another idea for you. Again, just with kind of that deep, desaturated blue with the beiges and tans. Something about it is just very beautiful and cozy to me. And then some pictures that I printed out using my HP Sprocket Bluetooth printer. And then just a couple of scrapbook paper that I kind of ripped the edges of, and then some washi tape layered on top of it. And then a little painting that I did here. And this one was one of my favorites as well. It was inspired by someone that I used to follow on Instagram, and I don't recall what her name was, but she had this very beautiful watercolory cloud theme, and I wanted to just make it very bright and include like the crystals and whatnot for December. So I really like how this one turned out as well. And this one was very interesting, just with kind of that radial orientation or layout where the daily boxes are outlining the center doodle or painting that I did of the crystals. So I really like how this one turned out as well. Just very unique. And lastly, just kind of to incorporate those watercolor clouds again with the crystals. I really like how this one turned out as well. You could definitely make it more simple than this, or decorate it even more if you'd like, but just kind of the basic layout of having the same sized boxes spread out evenly. So there is that one for 2019. Alright, now moving on to everyone's favorite year, 2020. This is the first half, and this year I decided to go with an orange bullet journal. So for 2020, then I actually did kind of like an album theme for the year. So every month the theme was based off of an album that was released that month. So for this month, then it was a Panic at the Disco album. It was very similar to that last one that I showed you in the 2019 journal, just with like the same sized boxes kind of spread out evenly throughout the spread, if that makes sense. So, and then here's another one that I really liked, just with like the different watercolor aspects, and then some gel pen, some pictures that I printed out and pasted in here, and then the washi tape, but basically just sticking to that same weekly spread layout where all of the daily boxes are in the center of the spread, and then just some random lyrics and some scrapbook-esque type decorations. Again, just kind of shifting around the orientation of the daily boxes just to make it look a little bit different every week. And then here's another one that I thought turned out rather interesting. Again, just kind of shifting around the daily boxes and filling in the blank areas with some art or some pictures that I printed out. This one was one that I thought turned out pretty interesting, just with kind of like that comic book look to it with the different paintings and doodles and lyrics. This one, aside from the little watercolor paintings that I pasted in here, this one could be very simple if you wanted to just add a little monogram for the days of the week and then just fill it in with your tasks and or journal entries. And this one is definitely more decorative with the watercolor pieces that I pasted into this page and kind of just adjusting the sizes of the daily boxes. And this one I thought was very cute, just with using different sized circular stencils. Then I just went in and basically created some bubbles. It's very nice having like the various shapes of bubbles as your daily entry. And then lastly, in this journal, I just went in with, I believe, a Sakura Pigma brush pen to fill in the black areas, just to kind of go with the song theme that I was going for this week. And then again, just kind of with that minimalist black and white monochromatic theme, just printed out some pictures that kind of went with the lyrics. So yeah, there is that one. Alright, now the second half of 2020, I think I must have ran out of those stickers, and so I just wrote the title using white gel pen. Again, just kind of having the daily spreads in the center of the spread, but this time I had them go all the way across to the other page. So I had like my tasks on one side and then my journal entries on the other, and then to go along with the song of that week, then I kind of just did some little paintings just to match the lyrics. Here's another spread that I was pretty happy with how it turned out. Just a little drawing that I did here, and then again with the boxes for the daily entries, and then just a little painting up here to go along with the song for that week. And then for this week, like how I was saying, I had all of those spreads that were relatively similar to each other, having the daily spreads on the center of the spread. This time I pretty much did like the opposite, having them on the outside and then having the artwork in the center. So I thought that it turned out very nice. Again, I believe this was inspired by someone's post that I saw on Instagram at the time, and unfortunately I can't remember exactly who that was, but yeah, moving on. Again, kind of similar to the previous one, just having the daily boxes be a part of the design or like the theme of that song for the week, and then just having the daily spreads integrated into the artwork. Alright, so here's another one that I thought turned out very nice, just with a bird and some leaves kind of going in between the daily boxes here. And then lastly, in this Bujo, I have just another weekly spread here where I kind of went for more of like the vertical layout for the daily entries, and then kind of just doodling around that. So there is that one. Alright, so moving on to 2021. This was actually the first year that I started using Archer and Olive journals. So it was also the year where I decided to do January through June in a fully craft paper dotted journal. I will say that I really do like creating spreads on craft paper. I think it looks very beautiful just with how much the white and the black stands out, as well as colored gel pens. For instance, with this first spread here, I basically just used a lot of gel pens, specifically Sakura Jelly Roll Moonlight gel pens. They just look very vivid and pop right off of the craft paper. So there's that first one. And then kind of an interesting looking one. This one's a little bit more scattered throughout the page, kind of just going in like this direction here and back and forth, having little squares where it's doodles, having one where it's like a to-do list, the calendar, and then like journal entries. So just changing it up. And this one here, I did something a little bit different. I basically just had all of my tasks listed on one side or one page, and then my journal entries were all written out on the other page. So just something a little bit more different to change things up. And then a little bit similar to the previous spread, where on one page I have like my tasks written out, and then the other page I have my journal entries. Just kind of going with that loose back and forth kind of daily entries, kind of staggered, and then incorporating like art or like what I was listening to at the time, some washi tape and stickers, the calendar, some notes, and then just some lyrics and washi tape. So just very decorative. And then here's just kind of another iteration of that previous spread, scattering the daily entries wherever I see fit, and then just filling it in with either some lyrics or some doodles. I found that on the craft paper, then colored pencil shows up very beautifully as well, so that was something I was experimenting this week. This is for those of you who don't want to use the entire spread or both pages just for 1 week. This one I actually put 2 weeks together. So I just made them a little bit different from one another, just having all of the boxes for the first week on one side with the notes, and then creating a slightly different layout for the second week, and then another box of notes over here. So just a little bit of variation. I'm pretty sure the reason why I did this was because I was still trying to get used to how the Archer and Olive journals, then they only have 160 pages compared to the Leuchtturm, where they have, I believe, 249. So here's another example. This is kind of just something random that I was doing at the time, but here's just another example of a weekly spread only on one page. So just another variation of it. More of a natural or organic theme, if you will. This next page here, I think I just went in with my Posca paint pens to create these outlines, which I think again popped very nicely off of the craft paper. And then to go along with the sunflower theme that I was doing for this month, then I just went and printed some pictures of sunflowers to paste in here as well, and then layering more craft paper on top of the craft paper for some reason, but I guess it worked. And then just another example here. This is something that I really loved the look of. I used, I believe, the Sakura Stardust Jelly Roll pens, and so it's like very beautiful and shimmery with like the gradient and whatnot. But again, just printed out some pictures of sunflowers. I used my white Sakura Jelly Roll to kind of like outline it and make it a little bit more artistic. And then there are the daily entry boxes there. And then again, just something a little bit more monochromatic to break up from all of the colorful and decorative spreads. Although this is still definitely decorative. These took a very long time to draw out actually, but I really love how it looks, especially on the craft paper. It just looks very vintage. And then last but not least, again, just a kind of simple and monochromatic weekly spread for those of you who prefer minimalist spreads. I basically just used a black pen, I believe my gray Zebra mild liner brush pen, and a Uniball Signo white gel pen for the highlights. And then just some washi tape, some black and white washi tape with some silver accents. But yeah, something very simple and minimalistic. There is that one for the first half of 2021. And so for the second half of 2021, then I used this blackout journal from Archer and Olive. It just has some silver edges, but the pages are all black and dotted. And I do have a couple in here that I would like to share. This one I thought was very nice, just with how it turned out with the, I believe the Archer and Olive acrylograph pens. Then I used it on the black paper, and then I just cut out some craft dotted paper and pasted them in here. So I thought this one turned out pretty interesting. And then this is another one just with the little daily entry boxes, and I forgot what the style of pattern or art is called that I did in the background, but there's that. This took a very long time, but it looks pretty cool, I guess. And then there's this one, just very simple, very minimalistic, I'd say, just using a white gel pen. I believe I used maybe like 2 different sizes, like the thicker one and then like a fine point for the actual writing. But yeah, just went in and did some flowers on the edges and just focused the daily entries in the center again, and then included the notes over here underneath the monthly calendar. Again, using, I believe, the Archer and Olive acrylograph paint pens, I basically used a variety of very muted and desaturated autumnal shades, since this is the second half of 2021, and basically just focusing like the artwork on this side, just very simple leaf designs, and then the daily entries on this side, including the notes section. And then next, again, just featuring the paint pens once more, but just doing kind of like a strike through and then writing the days of the week right on top, a couple of leaves with some washi tape, and then a few stickers that I attached as well. So still relatively simple, I would say, nothing too extraordinary. And then lastly, using the paint pens once more, then I basically just drew in these boxes and then some leaves in the background, along with some dots. So something very simple once again. So that's it for 2021, and just a few more to go. Alright, so up until the end of 2021, then I was only using A5 sized dotted journals for my bullet journals, and I was also using 2 of them a year. However, starting in 2022, then that was when I migrated to B5 sized dotted journals, and I was only using 1 journal a year. So this one was from Archer and Olive. The B5, then they also come with 160 pages. This year, then I basically just wanted to simplify my bullet journaling process, and that's why I stuck with a very minimalistic weekly spread. And I will only be showing you this page from this journal because basically all of the other pages look basically like it. So I kind of just decided to flip to this page and wanted to share it with you. But for those of you who may have seen my other bullet journaling videos, then This is basically like the original iteration of my weekly spread that I currently use to this day. So this is where I basically came up with this sidebar here with my trackers instead of having them on a separate page. And then this was the year where I was experimenting with vertical daily entry boxes. And then at the bottom, that was where I was including my daily doodles, but I've started just putting them back on their own page. And this weekly hub box down here was basically where I would record favorites from that week, and then I would also print out a little picture of something that happened that week as well. So yeah, here's the example from my journal in 2022. And then similar to 2022, I'm just going to show you just one page from 2023. Again, this is a B5 sized Archer and Olive dotted journal. And here is the version that I was following for 2023, similar to what I was doing in 2022, just with having like the calendar and then my trackers on this side. But instead of doing the vertical layout, then I went back to this horizontal layout, and then I started including my expense trackers or my finance trackers on this side. And then again for 2023, I only used this one journal, the B5 sized, and basically all of the weekly spreads were basically the same layout, as you can see. So, but there is a full video of me flipping through this if you are interested on my channel. So I will go ahead and link that in the cards or down below. Alright, so there was 2023. So just to bring us up to date, I'll just show you an example of what my weekly spreads look like now in 2024. So this is my current journal for 2024. Again, just a B5 Archer and Olive. So as you can see, very similar to my weekly spread in 2023, except now I just have the daily boxes divided up into basically like 5 sections. So I went more in depth with the explanation of this in my 2024 bullet journal and January setup video, which again, if you haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and link that in the cards. So yeah, that does it for my video today. Just a bunch of different weekly spread ideas for your bullet journals. Again, like I said in the beginning, a lot of them do kind of follow the same layout, just in some different orientations and kind of moving pieces around and making room for more decorative and artistic pieces. So I really hope that you found this video helpful and that you enjoyed it. If so, if you can go ahead and please like and subscribe, I would love to have you here. And please let me know if you have any questions or comments or any video recommendations below. I would love to hear from you. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.